Sound check. Check one, check two.
Naomi, can you hear me?
Hello.
Hello. It is.
I can hear you. Can you hear
hear.
me?
I can hear you. Thank you. It's so good to have you on the show.
So lovely to join you today. It's I'm a first timer.
You're
First time podcast, YouTube interview. So
you,
anything could happen.
eh, and having done this quite a bit myself, I can tell you, anything can happen. But I promise I promise we'll make it as smooth for you as we possibly can. Linda's my good friend and student and all-time awesome person. Linda is in the chat moderating. She'll let us know that everything's going
Yeah.
fine. So it's all good.
Great.
Um, I've wanted to have you come on the show for a little while. We've known each other for a little while. We were talking pre-show that we went to the Queensland Conservatorium, not together, but we were there at the same time.
Yes.
Way back into the
Way back.
way back into the mid-90s.
Yeah. I know, it's crazy to think that. And I don't think we were talking about this, we don't think we were doing quite the same course at the same time,
No,
but
no.
we would have trod the same paths.
And were you there in the old conservatorium building at Gardens Point? You would have been.
I did. Yeah, I
Yeah.
started off in that old building at Gardens Point, and
That
I remember the performance practice days in that room. I think there was a window so people could come and watch what was going on from the outside. And
the elevator
yeah, I
that you
remember
took
the old
the
building.
the elevator that you took your life into your own hands when you used.
That's right. Yeah, you didn't know whether it was actually going to get you to
Is
that floor or not.
is it going to get me to the floor? I have no idea. Anyway,
No.
the Queensland Conservatorium's been in a lovely new building since the late 90s, and yeah, it's funny to think that
Yeah.
actually it's not a new building anymore, because in my mind it still
No.
is, but it's
What year was it? Because I think I started in the old building around 94 and
yeah.
then it moved in by 95,
Yeah,
96. I
yeah.
think we would have been over the new
Do you
building.
know what? That would make the
Yeah.
new building something like 30 years old or something.
So it's not new.
No, it's not new.
Oh my goodness.
Hilarious. Um, I wonder whether you might kick off by
Yeah.
telling my community here at Voice Essentials a bit about yourself, and we're going to get into the games and gadgets. But you do so many. You're multi-talented and multifaceted. Who is Naomi? I do pronounce the last name Lewandowski?
Yeah, Lewandoski.
I wasn't.
Lewandowski.
Even.
Woo!
I
It's
wasn't
very
even
it,
close.
well, you had the anglicized version. It's all my husband's fault.
Oh,
He's got
dear.
this wonderful Polish last name, and yeah, it's got the W is pronounced V. So
V.
Lewandowski.
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 Lewandowski. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
I.
that's it.
I mean, that my pronunciation then is no surprise to anyone here on the channel, because I am a shocker. Anywho, moving right along. Tell us a bit about
Moving along.
yourself.
Well, gosh, who am I?
Who
Well,
are you?
I mean,
Ooh, hang
who
on.
am I? I started off many
Ooh,
years ago.
I'm trying to get you up here. There we go. I hit the
Oh,
wrong.
there I am.
See, I've been doing this for a long time and I still hit the wrong buttons.
Well, goodness, I started singing practically to sing myself to sleep. I think my parents are out there watching, so hi, mum and dad. I would sing myself to sleep at night, and when I was around 11, there was a lady who wanted to audition all the kids at the primary school because she had a little church choir and she wanted to start a children's choir. And so that was really how I got started, because she continued to ring my mother and say, could she's got a lovely voice and we'd love to have her in the choir. But I didn't want to join because actually my dad was into sailing, and so he'd built my brother and I a boat, and so the family used to go sailing on Sundays. So singing in the church choir on Sunday mornings wasn't going to be the thing to do because I was a bit of a tomboy actually, so I was off sailing. Anyway, I think as time went along, I must have, I loved singing. I was really into ABBA actually. My best friend and I sang a lot of ABBA. And so I thought maybe this singing
I was
thing
guilty
could be
of
good.
singing a lot of ABBA.
Yeah. Yeah, nothing like a bit of Dancing Queen.
That's
Get
right.
yourself going. So, I joined the church choir, and really that was the basis of my my musicality, understanding how music worked, because, it was pretty much classical music. There was no ABBA and no popular back then. We're talking the 80s. But the choir director, who's now still a very good friend of mine in her 80s, but she really taught me. She had her own little program of learning how to read the notes, learning how to read chords, learning what the symbols meant, all the sort of stuff that perhaps you learn through AMEB. She taught us that, and she had her own little program. So that really developed a love of classical music, and from an early age, I don't know, my voice. She liked my voice, and I was musical, and so I started to sing little solos. So that was my singing side of things. But on the other hand, at the school, they were offering, instrumental tuition. So I picked up the flute, and I was good at the flute, and I enjoyed doing that. And I played the piano as well. So I was doing a few different things. And then by the time I got to high school, everybody was playing the flute. And my wonderful high school music teacher, who's also still in my life, shout out to Gavin Staines, he was my high school music teacher, and he said to me, well, I need a bassoon. I need someone to play this weird instrument. The bassoon, you can maybe see. Can you see my fingers? I've got long fingers. And you need long fingers for the bassoon, and you need to be able to read the bass clef. So I could play the piano, so I could read treble and bass clef, so he thought that I'd be a good fit.
Right.
So I moved on to this bassoon. And so through my high school life, I was pretty much playing bassoon, popping up to sing a solo with the band. And it's been like that really all my life. So I continue to play now in a community band, the Lane Cove. Community bands have a program from adult beginners right through to those who've had some training. And so I'm playing in their top band called the Camarega Wind Symphony. And and I feature with them as a vocal soloist, as well as sitting there in the bassoon section. So, that's sort of been this double life that I live, sitting in the bass clefs and moving into singing. But I suppose training-wise, once I got through high school, I sang in a lot of different community operas, community musical theatre, and I had a few roles in Gilbert and Sullivan, and I was Maria in West Side Story. So I did a whole lot of lovely performances. But I thought I really needed to study more, and I'd already gone to the conservatorium. So I had a diploma in music on the bassoon.
Okay.
This was early 90s. And I really wanted to work on my voice more. I was having voice lessons privately, but I wanted to, really go further with what I was doing. And I was singing classically at the time. So that was when I went up to the Brisbane Conservatorium, the Queensland Conservatorium. So, and I studied there with, I had a couple of great teachers up there. Margaret Schindler was one of them. Oh. And I loved working. I loved the conservatorium. And then I also, that's right, I auditioned for the Opera Queensland chorus. And I did that probably my first year that I arrived in Brisbane, so around early 90s, 94 or so. And I got into the chorus. So that was very exciting. So that went on for 6 years. So I ended up singing with the Opera Queensland chorus for 6 years. And I also they had a touring program every year. Yes. And one of those years I went on tour as in Sid the Serpent, who wanted to sing. So that was fun. We toured around regional Queensland. So I got to see a lot of Queensland in that time. It was quite a long tour. and just a small group of singers. So that was a really wonderful time in my life, actually.
How
Yeah,
is
where do we
it?
go
How
from
is
there?
it? How is it that your own teaching started to come out of that?
Uh-huh.
Because obviously there's a big focus on your own performance, and I know that
Yeah,
you've just
there
got back
was.
from Europe, touring and performing.
Uh-huh.
Where did your teaching come out of that?
Well, I think in the early days especially when I was living in Brisbane, it was it just I think someone just asked me, "Could you teach?"
Yeah.
Someone just said, "Oh, you're a singer, so you should be able to can you teach so and so? I've got this 17-year-old needs lessons." So I remember starting myself quite young, early days at the conservatorium, that I became a teacher, and it was word of mouth. So it's interesting because I really just was going on what my teachers had taught me. I don't think there was as much wonderful information, and today I just feel like there's so many more avenues to learn about the voice, to learn about singing, teaching, to understand all of that.
Yes.
Whereas I think I just started raw. And also I was coming from a classical background, and I remember my first student, I still have a piece of music. It was Cry Me a River. And this girl's name was Selena. It still says on the piece of paper with a photocopy, Selena. And she's singing Cry Me a River, which is, a great jazz tune, a lot of emotion. And I really had a classical technique. So I'm probably getting her to sing Cry Me a River, probably getting her to do far too much vibrato. And we're trying to get full voice probably happening. I can imagine myself back then not really having that understanding of that there is another way to sing,
Yeah.
and that there's another style.
Sure.
So that was my early teaching experience. And look, that all then grew. I think originally I didn't want to be a teacher. Originally I wanted to perform. That was what I think a lot of us feel like that's where we're going. We're headed somewhere.
I think that's how
as
we
performers.
all start out, isn't it, really?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. But then over the years, family comes along, and I felt like, oh, well, I don't have the time now to be doing what I'm doing, which was, working late at night, sleeping in, and you've got kids and a family, and it's very hard to run that kind of a life.
Yes.
And so teaching became something that I was doing more and more. And more I started to enjoy it, actually. I was enjoying working with the younger kids, seeing them grow. One of the big things, actually, I think was I'd lived in Europe for quite a while, and coming back to Australia and being a bit more settled at home rather than being, jumping around different places in Europe. It was good to sort of be home, and over time I ended up with a job at one of the local schools, a private school. And again, I came against this feeling that, gee, I really don't know if I can teach these kids, because I had really had this nice classical tradition and classical setup. And yet all my students were coming to me wanting to sing musical theatre, which is fine maybe for the legit singing, but when they wanted to belt, I wasn't quite sure what I was meant to be doing.
Yeah.
So I felt that I need to maybe look into how does this work?
Yes.
And so that sort of started, and that would have been in the early 2000s, I'd say. I started to look at how the voice worked. I became a member of the ANATS community, and a lot of their training and their professional development was so wonderful to all of a sudden be open to different styles and different ways of teaching. So
Yes.
I think that was how I came to really enjoy, really love my teaching over the last 20 years.
And
it became more my staple, really.
Yeah, and it's actually, that's the reason I've reached out for you to talk today, is because it was the ANAT's conference this year, which I wasn't able to attend because I was at ICVT. But I saw the list of people who were talking, and I saw the topic you were talking on, and I thought, wow, that would be so good to get you on to talk about. So I wonder if we can sort of shift to that now, because I want to talk about this idea of games and gadgets in the studio.
Yeah.
And firstly, tell me, how is it that you got into this approach of teaching using these tools?
Yeah. Well, probably I think my interest was really peaked, and it was that we were talking about this. This is about 2013. We had this big ICVT conference, and it was in Brisbane.
Yeah.
So I'm in Sydney, so I went back up to Brisbane, to my old stomping ground to join this wonderful conference, and it was incredible. And there was this very eccentric, I thought, lady called Pat Wilson. She's got so much energy and zest for life, and
when just to give people, let's give people a bit of a picture of Pat. And the last time I saw her, she no longer wears these, but when I first met Pat back in the early 2000s, she had these red glasses with like palm leaves coming off.
Leaves.
Yeah, coming off this, like, wonderfully eccentric, like, just, and just a wonderful human being. Anyway, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's right. And she had this little talk. It was quite quick, and it was all about useful, fun tools you can use. And it was probably the first time I thought, oh my gosh, I don't just have to sing scales and arpeggios and just do, work through the range and just make sure I knew the patterns and all this. It was the first time I thought, oh, the voice is about a lot more than this. There's a lot more than just learning a pattern. It's about how the sound is made in the throat, in the larynx. We've got our resonance and all the articulators, but she used all these fun things to help people find things like their breath. Where does your breath come from? How do you feel your breath? And she used interesting gadgets. So that was where I first became interested, I think, in gadgets. And then in 2020, it was 2020, during COVID, I mean, things were bubbling along over the years, but in 2020, when we all went into COVID and lockdown, a lot of wonderful courses became available online. Singing teachers that weren't available to us previously, all of a sudden people from overseas were available. And I'd met Dr. Gillian Kays and Jeremy Fisher, they from Vocal Process, and I'd met them. They'd come to Brisbane, and they did a course. Sorry, I was on the Gold Coast, I think, but they did a lovely 2-day workshop. And that kind of, again, it was called Join the Dots. And again, I was like, I've got some gaps in these dots. I need to join a few more of the dots up. And so I actually went on with them, and I've been with them now for the last 5 years, that have become a registered teacher. But they were also very encouraging with my idea of playfulness in the studio, making it fun for students.
Yeah.
Having that kinesthetic awareness. What does that do to your voice? What does it do if we're touching something? What does it do if we are moving around? And it really, I just think it's made singing so much more accessible. There's a lot of people who, they're very nervous when they come to a lesson, or they've come from something really busy and they're not maybe in the zone to be singing. So sometimes having some fun things to do that sort of take them out of that zone, help them move into a different thought pattern can be really, really helpful with singing.
Yeah. I think one of the great things about approaching teaching with this idea is the word play. We've had Heidi Moss here on the show a couple of times, and Heidi's talked with us a lot about playfulness. And
yes.
And yesterday at the Kitty Vertolini seminar, again, this idea of playfulness was entertained, and there is, it's wonderful because I think it causes us to go back to the very reason we got into singing in the first place. It returns us to that ground zero point. I wonder whether you might share some of these tools and gadgets with us.
Yeah,
give us some insights
definitely.
into what you do.
Yes. Well, generally, actually sitting behind me, I'll just move it in. This is one of my favourite gadgets. Can you move that out of the way? One of my favourite gadgets is a big ball, a big Pilates ball. Because what tends to happen when a student comes in is they're not connected to their singing yet. They've come from somewhere. They're rushing. If you're teaching at a school, they've been doing another class. So sometimes they're just not very focused. So I find I get them they're just sitting on the ball, and they actually start to relax because it's quite fun. They're bouncing up and down sometimes, and then actually they'll usually talk to me, but I'll get them to do some exercises. Get them to just maybe do a little warm up on the ball, but I'll get them to move. And then we might start to talk about, how does it feel when you're moving around in a circle? Does the sound the same when you're sort of pushing forward or so? Does it sound the same when you're going backwards? So we're starting to get them to be aware of their body a little bit more, which is also taking their mind off whatever else they've been doing. So I find this is a really great one. It's also amazing for just getting your posture balanced, because once you sit on the ball, your shoulders kind of just relax. Your upper torso becomes quite released. And so it's a really nice way to start. So I encourage everyone to grab one of these if you can, if you've got some space. But I find this has been really marvellous for just relaxing into it. You can also, this ball can be very good for some other exercises where you're rolling over the front of the ball. I might just go sideways. So if you've got someone perhaps that you don't think they're connecting with their lower breath, if you've got them lying over the ball like so, and ask them to breathe in. As I breathe in, you really get that connection with the bottom of the ball, and you do need to steady yourself. But that's a really nice little exercise to sort of work out where the breath's coming from. So yeah, that's a breath one, I find. And postural exercise. Another really great one I've got here. Now you can get lots of different ones. This is actually a favourite of my students. So this one's your wobble board. You can buy these anywhere. There's some that aren't quite as high. This one's quite high. But I use this a lot, especially with my younger kids, because they really enjoy the fun of it. But it helps to get the gravity lower. Now, I'm going to look really wobbly. We can all have a good laugh about this. Make sure you're holding on. Oh, even I'm pretty wobbly on this. Can you see that?
We can't quite see the floor, but we get the idea. Yeah.
Yeah. I can change it around. So when you're standing on something that's wobbling, so you're also giving your body a chance to react to a situation that's not stable. So imagine this can also go into the whole performance aspect, that you're in a performance and maybe something's not going right. If your body has practiced being in this kind of state of instability, it actually can be quite helpful for the brain in those situations as well. So I find that I get them to stand on this, and I'm pretty wobbly on this. Some students are amazing, but you can see I'm sort of going from side to side. But it's bringing the breath lower down. So when you breathe in, usually you can feel the muscles. Students will feel these muscles sort of working more, and they're not sort of catching too high. So it's a good one for just bringing the breath down low. It's also great for the mind. So I love having a bit of a wobble board time. That can be really, really fun. So that's a couple of little ones that I often will start with. and they're fun. They make you laugh. You're a bit, you're not, it's playful. At the same time as building, it's building your posture.
Yes.
It's getting you aware of your body in space and how the body is going to connect to the voice.
Do you find there's any difference in, because I know you do work with children and younger people, do you find there's any difference between how a younger student will interact with the ball and the wobble board as compared to, say, your adult students?
Yeah, in some ways, I think the younger students, there's almost no fear, isn't there? Mm-hmm. Because they kind of just take it on board and have a go.
Yeah.
Whereas I do find sometimes the adults it takes a little bit to get them to play. And look, the wobble boards are not for everyone. I will sometimes use something completely different, like just getting someone for an adult. I don't know if you can, I'll just move this down a little so you can you see my feet a little better?
Not really, but that's okay.
You can see one leg.
Yeah.
Get an adult to perhaps just stand on one leg instead.
Okay.
Because sometimes the wobble board's a bit much. So when they're standing on one leg, they've got to think about standing. They've got to try and keep themselves up. It's bringing in these lower abdominal muscles, getting a bit of breath control, and you can sing an exercise here. Just sing, swap legs over, and that's going to just change. And you need to swap legs, otherwise you get a bit, otherwise you're going to get unbalanced. But to sing on one leg is changing the pattern of the brain as well, so that your body is ready to do things in different ways. It's sort of, once you do something in a different way, it really helps the mind, helps the exercise. I can probably stand on two legs now, can't I? So you can do things like that. It's kind of just making it more interesting. So then when you come back to sing that exercise, standing on two feet normally, all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, that was pretty easy. Because your brain before has been thinking about how I'm going to stand on one leg. And not so much about, am I going to get the high note or something?
And sometimes some of these activities are about actually getting the brain out of that, and the brain-body connection out of that automated state, right? And getting it to be mindful and present in the activity. Do you find that's
exactly
a
right.
big value of what you're observing when you use these tools?
It is. It definitely is, because sometimes I think a student can have, and we can as performers as well, have this thought that we just have this belief that I can't do something, or I'm not very good at high notes, or my voice is always airy, or whatever your thought is about your voice. And I find that these exercises are ways to not think about that as you do it. So as they go to a high note, they're doing something else that's actually a little more challenging, standing on one leg, lunging, balancing on a ball or something. So things like that can be really, really useful, because the brain has to think about that instead. So I think these are really, really useful tools. Obviously, I don't do everything in one lesson. It's pick what's right for the student on the day.
Isn't that an important point to make? Is that, I find when I was a younger teacher, I observed this sometimes in younger teachers, that, the moment they're given a hammer, they want to, everything becomes nail.
Everything, yeah.
And I think it is learning when to apply what tool for what reason and to what end. Do you find that there's like, in what ways do you find that these tools help bridge the gap into purposeful practice? Like, how do you encourage the use or the application of these at home for singers in their own time?
Yeah. Well, and that is the thing, moving from being able to do something in one setting and then being able to go into another setting.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously, we cannot sing lying over the ball. However, it's a really good tool for, as you're lying over the ball, perhaps to loosen the neck. Say you notice someone who's holding on to their neck muscles as they're moving up the scale or something. I often find that, lying over the ball is really helpful for that, but we can't do that afterward. We can't do that in performance. But the idea is that you start to feel comfortable lying over the ball, and then you start to come up, and we start to move through stages. So it's actually kind of a step ladder type thing. So at first, maybe the student is still tight singing without lying over the ball, or whatever other exercise you're going to do. But I find it's incremental. You slowly take away and you start to use some imagination. Imagine you're lying over the ball. What does it feel like when you're lying over the ball? What does the neck feel like? So that eventually you can take away the tool.
Yeah.
And they just sort of feel like, oh, okay, this is good. So it's sort of making that connection, because no, you can't always sing with a tool.
Yeah. Kitty talked a lot yesterday about imagination and the power of a person's imaginary space, and it was fascinating. We then were able to break into groups and practically outwork that, and it was a very powerful moment, certainly in our group. I'm just thinking of another tool that you mentioned, Margaret Schindler, earlier.
Oh, yes.
And Margaret, it was also one of my, she is my first, she was actually my second classical singing teacher at the con. But I was with her in her first ever year at the con. Were you with her in that first year?
I don't think it was her first year.
Yeah, okay.
I don't think I was with her until later on, about
right.
96 or 7.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Margaret, actually, when I was with her, she didn't have this, but many years later, Margaret, and she may still have this, she used to have one of those small trampolines in her studio space. And she would have students bouncing on the trampoline. People are going to want me desperately to ask you about the colourful thing over your right shoulder.
Yes. I was hoping to show you this, and
let's go to that, because everyone's going to want to see you and
they're going to want to see this.
That.
Okay, so this is basically, it's called a Hoberman sphere. How beautiful is that?
They're wonderful.
And really, what the idea of it is to think of the breath as a 360-degree breath, because often we just think of the front. I mean, you think of breath, and most people think of just the front side of their body. They're not always thinking about lower down.
Yes.
That we actually have, our ribs are lower down. I don't think I've got this set in a good way. I'm just going to move my, camera. Oh, now you can't see my head. But I wanted to just, can you do this without seeing my head? It's more that you want to imagine that the breath goes it's into the ribs, and it goes a little bit up into the chest, because we actually have our ribs right up under our collarbone here. Our lungs are going right up under the collarbone. But often the breath is going, we're getting this heaving of breath. So this is all about trying to imagine the breath a little bit lower down. Sorry, you won't be able to see this unless I do it high, but imagine this lower down. The breath is going in all around the front and around the back ribs, and then back. So I often will get a student to breathe in, 2, 3, 4, and then out, 2, 3, 4. Just because the camera's a bit high, I really wanted to be able to show you that this needs to be, I can't seem to get the camera at the right level. Sorry, everybody. Let's try this again. Okay. Oh, there you go. That's better. If I come back here. Good. Because really what you want to see is encourage them to feel the breath in this lower torso, rather than, it will go here, but the heave is not the first thing we want to see. It's actually out
Yes.
and down, a bit like the wings of my jacket. So the breath is coming in, 2, 3, 4, and then out, 2, 3, 4. And imagining this all around the back. So you can do little exercises as well, and little puffs of breath. So I often will get them to breathe in gently, and then get them to do shh, 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 shh. And see if they can feel what's happening in these muscles around the torso, around the lower abdomen. So the breath's coming in and then out. Shh, 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 shh.
What I love about that
Beautiful
tool,
visual tool.
yes, and what I love about it is the externalization of it.
Yeah.
You know, that you're, because our instrument as singers is in many ways very internal, the opportunity to have that externalization and visualization is so powerful.
Yeah. And I mean, this is also quite interesting what will happen if you have a student breathe, but actually get them to start up here and see what happens and what they feel. So this is all about sort of getting you to be in touch with your own body. But if you breathe, you can actually just at home, if you're wanting to try it out, you can breathe with your hands out, but up around your head. Just take a little breath in and notice what you actually feel. Where do you actually feel the breath when you're focusing up the top here? Do you feel it low, or do you feel it actually up higher in the body? I do actually feel, because I'm thinking up here, my breath feels like it's up here. So as I bring this down, so I bring it to my mid-chest, I then start to feel the breath. It's moving. I'm thinking about this middle area of my body, and you start to get a bit more connection there. Then you bring it down to the lower area. So you can with this as well get them to sing a phrase. So they might want to sing a phrase of a song, so they've breathing in, but I tend to feel that it's better when it's lower down, much lower down. And it's encouraging this thought that the breath is also in the back.
Yeah, okay.
Because we tend to forget that the lungs are actually going all the way up, behind your shoulder blades here, up here, and down here. So, I mean, the breath, you could even hold it at the back and see how that feels. Sing a phrase. We're going to breathe first. My body lies over the ocean. So it encourages the idea that as you sing, we're actually using the air. Because I think sometimes too, we think of, as I sing, I've got to hold the air because I don't want to use too much and I want to make sure I get through the phrase, but that causes that tight feeling. So having this is a wonderful visual tool to remind the singer that the air is there to be used. Use it right to the end of that phrase. And actually, there's a bit of coordination with this. You'll find some students will, they're in real quick. So
Well, that's in fact what some
really
students are doing with their breath. So
Yes, exactly. And so when you have them have to make it slow,
Yes.
and I say to them, have you still got more to sing? And they're like, yeah. I said, oh, well, your ball's closed. Do you need to open that up?
Yeah.
So we working out how to make this move slowly. So you can buy these online. I think online they're just called the expanding magical ball or something.
Okay.
But they were called a Hoberman sphere.
Yes.
But I got mine on Amazon or something like that.
Something like that.
But they are an amazing tool and great for all ages.
Yeah.
All ages.
Yeah. Can I?
Young ones.
We said before that we, in talking about these tools, we don't want to suggest that, given a hammer, everything is a nail. I wonder also
Yeah,
whether
no.
you might take a moment just to, in the age of gamification of everything, I guess one of the dangers could also be in applying said tools that we can fall into the trap of thinking that we need to have a tool for everything also.
Yeah.
Where do you find yourself finding the balance with that?
Yeah. Well, look, every student is different.
Yeah.
And there's some little exercises that I've used. Actually, I'll show you another thing that I use, but that sometimes I find doesn't work. So I use a ribbon, and I ask you can ask the student, if you don't have a ribbon, just to imagine a color. So if I'm wanting a bit more legato line, or I just feel that they're not moving from note to note very well, it's a bit choppy, I might ask them to imagine what color they like, and imagine them singing that color and kind of pulling it from their mouth straight. So if you've got someone who's actually tactile, likes the tactile, likes the sensory, and you've got something like this, I often will get them to have it near their chin, hold it near their chin, and then I scissor their fingers, and I'll get them to sing a note. And I try and imagine we're singing that all along that beautiful line. But I do find there are some students who they're actually struggling with being able to do this.
Yes.
I don't know why, and so you've got to know when that's not working and that this tool is just not useful for that student.
Yeah.
So then I'll take that away and then maybe just try it, just pulling something out their mouth, or go to something completely different and see if maybe singing a line with just your hands, doing something like this, is better for that student. Because sometimes if you've got them doing too many things and they can't process, then the actual tool is not going to be very useful.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%.
So it really, I think it comes from experience too,
Yes.
of just, you've got to try these things out, and
dare I say, you have to play.
you have to play. That's right. And I think as teachers, and we have to be mindful that, everybody is unique. Everybody has their own way of processing. But also that there's so many solutions, like sometimes you can't hit on exactly what's not allowing that student to say, okay, let's just talk about the range. So it's not allowing them to sing higher. They're struggling with their range and they can't get really high. But that could be so many different things. And it could be that, maybe their tongue's in not the greatest position, or it could be that, in fact, sometimes it can just be that their body posture's off. Sometimes it can be that their oral skills aren't working as well. So you have to kind of come at that problem, that challenge, at different angles.
Yeah.
Look at different ways to go for that high note.
Yes.
Does it help that person to bob down?
Yeah.
Are they thinking that note's way up there?
Yes.
Does it help to tell them, okay, we're going to bob down on that note? And you have to just try these things out, because sometimes it'll work and then other times it won't, and you have to go on a different tack.
Yeah.
And I think that's okay as a teacher, to not always find the solution straight away, but to always be inquisitive, always be working towards the answer. And the more you do it, I mean, I've been doing this a long time, so I'm a lot more confident when I pick whatever tool I'm going to use these days. But, in the early days, it was quite hit and miss, I'd say.
It has been so good to have you on the show to talk about these things, and some of those I quite really, because I must admit I've seen
This is
I've
beautiful.
seen some of the other tools used, but the ribbon, I've never seen anyone do that before.
Oh,
So
haven't you?
no, I have not.
Oh, it's great.
That's a first
And
for
the other
me.
nice thing just to know about that is it's really good for range because
Yes,
you're reminding them that our vocal folds here don't sit this way. I
yes,
think people sometimes think that they
yes,
stretch
yes,
this way, so we're going for a note up
yes,
here,
but
whereas
we actually
going
hear.
like this is mimicking.
I love it
Ah,
for the idea of working on
beautiful
line and
line.
consistency of pathway and yeah, no,
Yeah.
really,
And
really
all
good.
different colors, pick
Yeah,
any color. And
I love
then
it.
this one's an easy one to take away because they've seen the red
Yes,
and then they can imagine the
the
red going this
visualization.
way,
Yeah,
visualize it. Yeah, that's
awesome.
good. I'm glad you like that one. It's
Yeah,
a
I do.
useful tool for me as well.
Yeah, Naomi, it has been so good to hang out with you. Remember, I told you that the time would go very quickly.
It's gone so fast.
It's over.
Yeah, there's so many. We might have to talk again.
We
We
might.
might have to have part
We
two.
we do you know what? We probably will, and because I know you've got more there to show us, but we do have to. We've got to finish up because my 2 o'clock
That's
will. Well, actually, it's an online lesson, so my 2 o'clock is going to jump into our live feed in a second. So
into our chat.
we do need to
That's
finish up. Thank you so much for sharing those tools with us today.
Thank you for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk about something I'm really passionate about. I mean, the voice and how our whole body works to make the voice work and how our emotions can play into that as well is just that's what I love about singing and I
And
love about teaching.
and you can tell it was just a joy to have you on the show. Thank you.
Marvelous. Thanks a lot.
Well,
I'll
there you
see
go,
you next
everyone.
time.
I hope you can take away some things to play with there, and again, recognizing that just because you get handed the hammer, don't go start. You'll find that when you play, certain things are going to resonate with you, and certain things not so much. But wanted to encourage you with some ideas for you to play around with in your own practice. Remember, next week we are going to be coming back for our final mini topic of the year, vocal stamina. I think that'll be interesting. And then we have Professor Brian Gill joining us as he does for the last show. Well, the last guest the last 5 years he's been our final guest. Then we'll have our final Q&A, and then we'll have our final, the what has now become known as the ADA session, the Ask Dr. Dan Anything. We've got to come up with a better name than that, Linda. We really do. Anywho, I look forward to seeing you next week. Have a great week, everyone, and stay safe and continue to sing well. I'm Dr. Dan. Sing well.